Alright, about a month ago now, I had a viewer comment on one of my videos asking that I give my opinion on what I think of electric cars and electric trucks. So I felt like today was an appropriate time to make that video. And I felt like today was a real good day to wear this t-shirt. So before I get into everything, I'm going to be spitting out a lot of information. And the information that I'm going to be talking about is from a lot of different articles and sources that I've been reading through over the past couple months. So please do your own fact checks and don't take everything I spit out as factual information. Please do your own research and come to your own conclusion. So I figure the first place to start is, do I regret buying this truck in 2020? Well, I bought this maybe a year and a half ago, something like that. Now, do I regret buying a diesel-powered 3/4 ton truck? To answer that question, no, I don't. Yes, I'm paying a tremendous amount of money for fuel, but let me tell you, for the size of this truck, when I'm mindful of how hard I press down on the accelerator and I'm mindful of how I drive, lately I've been getting 21 miles per gallon. And for a beast like this, that's just incredible. But there's no question that this is an extremely capable truck. Is there anything out there that can replicate what this truck can do? And at the moment, there's not. Now, Tesla is coming out with their electric Tesla truck, which they claim that can tow, up to 14,000 if you buy the tri-motor version. But that starts at like $70,000 or $80,000. And we're going to get into a lot more information about that. But I'm just talking about like what the alternatives are out there. Now, I've been watching some videos online. I think somebody took the Ford Lightning and did a tow test and compared that to like an F-150. And one of the problems with electric vehicles is once you start to tow, it dramatically reduces their range, oftentimes in half. Of course, it depends on what you're towing and whatnot, but there's just so much value in having something that can perform so much work, and you can stop at a fuel station. Of course, you're going to pay a lot for diesel, but just be able to fill the tank up in a matter of minutes and get back out there and get back to work. There's nothing that can replicate that yet. So let's talk a little bit more about electric batteries and why I don't like batteries. So please do your own research, but according to the research that I've done as of late, there have been a lot of environmental impact studies on what the true cost of owning an electric vehicle is. Now, when you manufacture an electric vehicle, there's a lot of raw or rare materials that go into those battery packs. And those materials have to be mined. And they're not done in America because we have such high environmental regulations. So, of course, you know, over in other countries across the pond, as they call it, they're just mining and doing a lot of environmental damage to be cleaner, right? So when it comes to manufacturing these electric vehicles, there's a lot more pollution initially, but the claim is that eventually equals out at, I don't know, 100,000 miles, something like that. I don't know if that's the exact mark. I think it's around that mark, of course, depending on the vehicle, but let's just roughly say that they eventually equal out at 100,000 miles. Now, here's some other problems. That's all fine and well, and you would think, you know, from 100,000 miles on, all right, now you're more environmentally friendly than a gas-powered counterpart or fuel-powered counterpart. Well, the problem with these electric batteries is every year that battery loses capacity. I believe it loses about 2% capacity every year. And the lifespan of those electric vehicle batteries are between, I think, 10 to 20 years. So let's say you only get 10 years, 10,000 miles a year, you know, you're at 100,000 miles and it's time to replace that battery. Well, now what? So now, if you have to replace that battery at 100,000 miles, I mean, you're kind of resetting the supposed environmental savings, because now you have to reproduce a new battery. Now, with the old batteries, what happens to them? Well, here's the thing, we don't really have the technology for electric vehicle battery recycling right now. I mean, please do some research, but the research that I've done is these batteries, for one, have to be shipped to a potential future recycling facility. And I think right now, most of these electric batteries are just being stored in a warehouse until they can come up with the technology to cost effectively recycle these batteries. Now, here's some other things as well. These batteries, according to my research, what can be recycled from the battery? Well, for one, these batteries are extremely toxic and they require a lot of chemicals to even try to recycle them. What can you recycle from these batteries? Well, the main thing that's even worth recycling in these batteries is something called cobalt, which I really don't know anything about. All I know is it's something rare and it's valuable, and it's really the only thing that makes it worth trying to recycle these batteries. Now, you would think that the lithium in these batteries could be turned into new batteries, but unfortunately, again, according to my research, the lithium in the batteries cannot be recycled into new batteries. Oftentimes, I think what happens is that lithium is extracted and it's turned into like lithium greases, like secondary sources. So it's not like a lead acid battery, right? Like a lead acid battery, you know, it's completely recyclable, and that's why they're so commonly used, and it's just great because you can keep recycling it. As where these lithium ion batteries, I mean, at the moment they're only really recycling them for the cobalt. I think the idea is that they'll store them in the warehouse, and then hopefully the technology comes out at some point for it to be profitable to recycle these batteries, but we're not at that point yet. So in my opinion, based on my current research, I don't think electric cars are any more environmentally friendly than a gas-powered car. Now let's talk about some other issues. Where does the electricity come from to charge those batteries? Well, according to my research, 60% of the energy that's pumped into the grid is through fossil fuels, and I think 40% is renewable sources. When it comes to renewable energy, I like hydro-powered turbines. I like the idea of wind, but one of the issues with the wind turbines is those components, they wear down over time and they're not recyclable. So once those components wear out, what happens to them? They get thrown in a landfill. I don't know. I think they're still better than not having them, but you know, these are just some other things to think about, right? So what else can I say about the batteries? Another issue that I have with driving an electric vehicle, these batteries, these lithium ion batteries, store a tremendous amount of energy. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to go online, go on YouTube, and look up something called thermal runaway. So these batteries, when they fail from overheating or an electrical short and there's a fire, especially when these batteries are charged, there is just so much energy that's released so quickly. It's an exothermic reaction, and you can't put out that fire. And some of these fires get so hot so quick, and they expand, and they're scary. I mean, if you were to get in a car crash with a car that had a fuel tank, you know, what's the worst that happened, right? Well, you cut a hole in the fuel tank and there's a fuel spill, and then, you know, you see the fire, you smell the smoke, hopefully it doesn't catch that quick, but generally you have some time to get out of the car. Now, I've watched a lot of videos lately of these thermal runaway fires, and let me tell you, it's scary. Like, normally there are some warning signs, like you can see some smoke, but once that fire starts, you're not putting that out. No, you're not putting that out with an extinguisher, you're not putting that out with water. As opposed to, you know, if there was a fuel fire, you can at least somewhat control the flames with maybe a ABC dry cam. I mean, you have some control over controlling that fire and maybe helping occupants get out of the vehicle if you're at the right place at the right time with the right equipment. But these thermal runaways, you're not going to be able to control that fire. On that note, I was a volunteer firefighter for about 11 years, and I saw a lot of accidents, saw a lot of things that I don't really like to talk about. But I did a lot of extrications over the years, and when it comes to extrications on like a normal petrol-powered vehicle, you're normally pretty safe when it comes to getting the occupant out of the vehicle. You know, you're not worried about like crunching into a battery pack that's gonna cause thermal runaway. You know, you're not worried about crunching into like a high voltage line that's gonna shock you and kill you. So in the eyes of a first responder, thankfully I've never had to cut into an electric vehicle to get an occupant out, and they do provide some safety training for first responders, but you know, that training information only goes so far. You know, you're out there in the field and you know, you have an electric vehicle that's wrapped around a tractor trailer or something like that, you know, it just changes things. And you can put all you want on paper, but when you're out there and you witness some of these accidents, as a first responder, you know, there's only so much you can do to try and protect yourself and protect the occupants. And you know, I feel if I was the victim, I would feel a lot safer inside a petrol-powered car over an electric vehicle. Yeah, I'd just be scared to be an electric vehicle that got crunched, and I'd be scared out of my pants that that battery was going to run away. You know, whatever side of the political spectrum you're on, I think we can all agree on one thing. We all want to have clean air to breathe, and we all want to have clean water, and we want to have a good, clean earth to hand down to our children, grandchildren, you know, the next generation, as it were. And I just think the push on electric vehicles, according to my research, what I've read, I don't think it's environmentally more friendly at this point than a gasoline-powered car. Now, alternative fuels, that is an idea, but those are also problematic, like ethanol. I was actually reading a study about a month ago that said the 10% ethanol in most gasolines is actually worse for the environment than it would be to just use pure oil. So I thought that was a really interesting article because, you know, push for renewable energy, this and that, but it's just interesting that I read that ethanol is, you know, the 10% ethanol additive to gasoline is possibly, in fact, worse for the environment than just conventional gasoline. Now, I don't think diesel engines are going around for quite some time. Now, in previous videos, I had said that I like the idea of biodiesel, which I've done a little bit more research on biodiesels, and biodiesels are also flawed. I'm trying to get it out here. So where does biodiesel come from? Well, most of the time at the moment, biodiesel comes from like reused cooking oil. Now, the problem with the cooking oil, I mean, you can blend it with regular diesel, but the problem with biodiesels at the moment is that they're more likely to gel in the wintertime, so you're more likely to have fuel problems. And here's the other big issue with biodiesel. It actually creates more smog in the air than conventional petroleum diesel. I thought that was very interesting. So with electric vehicles, we're just not there yet. And again, in the next 5 to 10 years, just you watch, I think we're going to have a tremendous problem when it comes to the storage and recycling of these batteries, because there's really not a good solution for it right now. It's very expensive. You have to transport these batteries extreme distances to get to these recycling centers. Something else I was reading, the one good thing is that it's not like you can just throw these batteries in the woods and just hope nobody ever finds them. There's so many identification tags and tracking features on these batteries, so you know, if somebody dumps a battery, it's going to be a lot easier to trace it back to where it came from. So yeah, just in my opinion, the battery technology is not there yet. I'm sure it's going to get better. It's probably, I'd expect it to get more environmentally friendly over the years as we come out with new battery technology. Hopefully they figure out better ways to recycle these batteries. It'd be kind of cool if they created like a standard battery pack that, you know, just fit like a certain number of cars that's easily replaceable. But again, the thing that scares me with these batteries is just you're sitting on just a huge energy source, and if that runs away, thermal runaway, I mean, I would not want to be inside it. So at this point, you're probably saying to yourself, all right, this guy doesn't support electric cars, you know, he just must love to pollute the environment. Well, that's not true. You know, once more, we all want to have clean air to breathe and clean water to drink. An alternate fuel that I support and I believe we should really be pursuing and investing in is hydrogen. Now, hydrogen is made from water through the process of electrolysis, I believe, which basically you take a bucket of water, you stick an electrode through it, you put an electric current through that, and then the hydrogen atoms separate from the water, and then you have this flammable gas. There's a lot of potential energy in that hydrogen. I know out in California they actually have some hydrogen fuel stations now, and it's a little bit more expensive than gasoline, but what comes out of the tailpipe? Is it just water vapor? It's just, from my understanding, it's an extremely clean resource. It's renewable. There's a tremendous amount of energy in it, and if myself as a taxpayer is going to be funding all this infrastructure for all this electric stuff, I think a much better way to go would be to take that money and focus in on hydrogen technologies. The benefits of hydrogen, please do your own research, but you know, it's similar to fueling up your car. It's going to take a little bit longer, but it's quick. You know, one of the problems with electric vehicles, you know, you go on a road trip and you need to charge up your car. What's it take, 45 minutes, an hour to recharge? I mean, with a hydrogen fuel station, I think it's just a little bit longer than fueling up a regular gas tank. So you have the advantage of filling up your vehicles quick. It's fairly comparable to the price of gasoline at this point, and of course, as these stations become more common and the technology improves, of course, I'd expect the price of hydrogen to go down. I just really think it's something that we should be pursuing as a renewable resource. So that's it. That's my spiel. I'd imagine I'm going to take a lot of flack in the comments, but that's fine. I'd like to hear your comments. Let me know what you think, but I don't regret this truck. I absolutely love this truck, and there's nothing out there on the market that can replicate what this does that has an alternate fuel source at this point in time. So that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.